Soy-based butter or something.
Well, I thought the thing I had to go through, we can share it, was more or less that. Was it really good? Good food, Ken? Good.
LA chef. Yeah, service for there.
No, that was that Monday. Oh, well, thank you.
That's service.
Yeah, it was pretty, small group of us.
Good morning, everyone. We can call the meeting to order at 9:03 a.m. this morning. In the true spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge all those who call this land home now and for thousands of years in the past. May we respect each other and find understanding together and recognize the benefits that this land provides to all of us. Councillor Vanderveen won't be joining us today. He is traveling, and Councillor Slump is attempting to join us virtually. We'll see if that comes together or not. Candace, just let us know. And other than that, we can move down to the adoption of the agenda. Before you, you have a proposed agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, any edits to the agenda? Devin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There'll be 3 additions today to the agenda, one from myself, one from Haley, and one from Councillor Zeenstra. Mine is under F1.5, Bridge File 79595 Update.
And that was F15, Devin?
Correct.
Okay. And the second one?
Just an in-camera session to talk to council about the GFOA award.
Okay. And Morris, you want to add something?
First one is just a little report about the unknown things filling badly.
Okay, why don't we do that H3 then? Does that work? Anything else? So we have those three. Oh, sorry.
Morris.
Yeah?
I get them confused too.
Yeah, the other
Anything else? Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move the adoption of the agenda as amended.
Thank you, John. John has moved for the adoption of the agenda as amended. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Adoption of the minutes. Before you have the County Council meeting minutes of March 6, 2025. Are there any errors, omissions, any issues arising from the minutes? Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the minutes of the March the 6th meeting. Approved.
Thank you, Lauren. Lauren has moved for the adoption of the County Council meeting minutes, March 6, 2025, as presented. Any discussion? Not. I'll call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Why don't we move, just for timing purposes, we do have 3 public hearings today, scheduled to start at 10 a.m., and I believe that is our only time commitment for today. Having said that, why don't we move down to D1 and do our one subdivision application for today. Good morning, Hillary.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Council. We have one subdivision application for County Council acting as a subdivision authority to consider for today. That subdivision application is 2025-0-022. This is for a subdivision of a 6.67 acre lot from a 44 acre title for group country residential use. County Council may recall that I think late last year, early this year, January. Oh, January. Yeah, it was January of this year that Bylaw 24-021 was approved to rezone a portion of this parcel to group country residential to facilitate the subdivision of the yard out. And so this is that subdivision application for your consideration. And with that, I'll pass it off to Steve for the planning comments and their recommendation.
Good morning. Mr. Chair, this first application, as mentioned, is this to correspond with the area land that was rezoned by council in January under Bylaw 24-021. The applicant is subdividing the existing yard area next to the municipal road allowance there. The yard contains a mobile dwelling. There's an indoor riding arena barn and several other outbuildings on there. The 6.67 acre yard portion is the area that corresponds to the rezoning to group country residential boundary in accordance with the bylaw. The yard itself area that we're subdividing has that group country residential zoning on it. The remnant piece, which is 38.04 acres, which is some vacant hayland, has the remaining rural agricultural land use zoning on it. The intent of the application was to separate that residential yard portion from the remainder of the agricultural land in this area there, where there's a number of subdivisions and group country residential subdivisions along the road there. So as part of the review and the referral process on this application, and as maybe you might recall from when the rezoning application is in front of you, but this area doesn't contain any historical resources, wetlands, no abandoned gas wells or those types of features that would impact the subdivision. It well exceeds the closest applied minimum distance separation to a CFO to the west there, which is about 1.5 miles or just a little bit less than 1.5 miles away, and it meets that. So the proposal overall conforms to the conceptual design plan that was submitted at the time of the rezoning, and to the group country residential land use district standards, including the lot size. As part of the referral application out, there was no objections or concerns received on the application. Since I sent it over for the agenda, we've heard back from a couple utility companies. They don't require anything, as well from Alberta Transportation, just due to being within the referral distance of the highways there. Obviously, it doesn't access or touch the highway, so they had no concerns and granted an approval. And we just heard back yesterday from the SMRID as well, and they have no concerns or objections to the proposal, and won't affect anything with their water there other than signing a domestic household agreement for the yard portion. So one of the things with this application and an approval is that the municipal reserve payment would be applicable on that 6.67 acres coming out. And that value came back at $17,000 per acre. So with that, there would be a reserve payment owed to the county, which would be approximately $11,339 as one of the conditions of approval of the payment on that. And as part of the process, we'd register a deferred reserve caveat on the remnant 38.04 acres due to it being less than 40 acres inside. So with that, addressing the provision of the municipal reserve, I recommend approval to you, just the basic conditions of the taxes are paid up to date, a development agreement entered into if required, that they have to prepare their final plan of survey, and on the draft that came out referred to the utility easements, but it looks like none are required.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. I'd open up to council. Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Steve, I didn't quite catch all the deferred. You were gonna take just on the 6 acres?
Pay it on, yeah.
Or what about the
Yeah.
balance? You'll pay it as it is developed?
If
or-
they come back, yes. Through Councillor Hickey, through the chair, that if a parcel's greater than 40 acres in size used for agriculture, they're not required to provide municipal reserve to the municipality. If it's less than 40 acres, you can take a reserve on the option. We usually look at the size of the parcel, any potential to re-subdivide and that sort of a thing. So if it's usually in more than 20 acres, because you have the policy where a parcel of 20 acres or less, you can come back to re-subdivide. You might consider taking it or not, or saving it for the future. With this remnant piece being 30 acres, just a little bit under the 40, and being currently the hayland, the recommendation was to defer it. With the number of subdivisions along the road there, in this area close to the city, there could be potential that in the future somebody might come back and want to rezone and do further subdivision. So it's your option whether you want them to pay it on the whole thing or just on the yard coming out. At the time when it was rezoned as part of the concept plan, they had suggested that it would be paid on this portion and it would be deferred on the other. So, but you do have the option to take it all if you like.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. So one follow-up just on the intensive livestock operation. Is that to the west?
Yes.
It's not Skiba's, it's the next one over?
Yeah, over.
Does Skiba still have a permit there?
Forget his name.
Isn't it Sundown?
Maybe it was 2 miles.
Sundown Feeders.
Yeah.
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 So the other one there, another mile to the east, they don't have a permit anymore? Right by the drain there?
And here?
Yeah.
I don't think
that's
it was large enough for a confined feeding operation, so it might be underneath the NRCB, oh, sorry, it might be underneath the NRCB thresholds so that they don't have a, like a.
But it doesn't, it's not operational anymore. I just
Right.
wondered if they still,
Th-
don't know.
I don't think
Okay.
anything came up.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I would
Go, Lauren.
move, sorry, thank you. I would move subdivision application 2025-0-022 be approved.
Thank you, Lauren. Lauren has moved the recommendation that subdivision application 2025-0-022 be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in the draft resolution. Is there any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thanks, Lauren. Why don't we move down now? Under F, department reports, we have 4 proposed first readings, and then our bridge update edition. So why don't we start at F1, F1.1, Bylaw 25-007 to redesignate a portion of Plan 1910749, Block 1, Lot 9, in the Northeast 25-120, west of the 4. Hillary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This first bylaw for first reading is to, sorry, let me get my map organized here, is to redesignate a portion of that Northeast 25-1022, west of the 4th, from urban fringe to hamlet industrial. This is to facilitate some further industrial growth for the hamlet of Shaughnessy. So this is on the west side of Highway 25. The applicant is looking to create 2 parcels, which you would see at a future subdivision if the rezoning is approved. The parcel that they would have to the north would be consolidated with an existing business that is adjacent to it, and then there would be an additional lot to the south with the opportunity for a road right-of-way in between. So with that, I have recommended for County Council to consider first reading of this bylaw so that we can set up the public hearing and send out the appropriate notices.
Thank you, Hillary. I would open up to council for any discussion. Go ahead, John.
It seems fairly straightforward, and given that it's first reading, I'd like to move that bylaw 25-007 be read a first time.
Thank you, John. John has moved the recommendation that bylaw 25-007 be read for a first time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Our second for today, F1.2, bylaw 25-008, repeal bylaw 1481, being the Meadowscape Area Structure Plan. Hillary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this next application is to repeal an existing area structure plan, being the Meadowscape Area Structure Plan. The Meadowscape Area Structure Plan consists of 2 separate titles, which buffer a former canal that was piped, I think, a few years ago. In looking at the requirements for potable water and the opportunities for development, both landowners have come to an agreement that the area structure plan is no longer relevant to what they wish to do on their respective titles. And so they have put the application in to rescind that Meadowscape Area Structure Plan, being bylaw 1481. And with that, I have recommended first that council consider first reading of bylaw 25-008. Once again, we will send out the notices to the adjacent landowners and hold the public hearing in May. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Hillary. I would open it up to council. Go ahead, Mark.
I'd move that bylaw 25-008 be read a first time.
Thank you, Mark. Mark has moved the recommendation that bylaw 25-008 be read for a first time. Is there any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Mark. F1.3, bylaw 25-009 to redesignate Plan 2210953, Block 2, Lot 2, from group country residential to urban fringe. Hillary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This next bylaw application is in conjunction with the repeal of that Meadowscape Area Structure Plan. The landowner to the east in that plan area wishes to redesignate their lands back to the urban fringe district. As mentioned, there is some issues with regards to access to potable water from the Lethbridge Northern Water Co-op. And so they have submitted their rezoning application as such for that portion of Southwest 15922 west of the 4th. Just going back to that other application, the other landowner on the west side of that plan area would remain, their parcel would remain group country residential, as they do have a desire to subdivide, but on a, instead of 6 lots, they would want to have 3. So that'll be part of the decision on the public hearing for this whole application. So with that, this one is just for the rezoning back to urban fringe for this eastern parcel.
Thank you, Hillary. I would open up to council. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that bylaw 25-009 be read a first time.
Thank you, John. John has moved the recommendation that bylaw 25-009 be read for a first time. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there was some restrictions placed on it when we did it before about drainage. Do they still go with it, or do they just get everything erased?
So with regards to the landowner on the west side who does want to subdivide, so they had to submit a concept plan, which is part of their package to council for that repeal. They would have to do some type of drainage plan that would follow what that area structure plan, but we would have it contained within a subdivision as a development agreement. So it would still be, drainage would still be addressed, but it would be on a lesser extent because it's not as an intensive development.
Any other questions? If not, John has made the motion. There's no further discussion. I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. And our final first reading, F1.4, bylaw 25-010 to redesignate portions of the northeast 25-8-23 west 4, northwest 32, 22 west of the 4, and southwest 38, 22 west of the 4 from urban fringe to direct control. Hillary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This last application for a rezoning is located to the west of the city of Lethbridge, just off of Township Road 8-5 and Range Road 22-5A. It is to redesignate a portion of those 3/4 sections to direct control to allow for the development of a cannabis facility, which would include cannabis cultivation, a cannabis nursery, and then a small cannabis processing facility in one of the existing buildings. This obviously is not something that's allowed currently in our urban fringe district, and so the direct control was thought as the best means to accomplish what the applicant had proposed. I will note that we have had discussions with this application with the city of Lethbridge already quite extensively, and they have submitted their support for this particular rezoning on the basis that it is similar to agriculture, and it would be a fairly small processing facility to that extent. So with that, I have recommended that County Council consider first reading of bylaw 25-010 to be read a first time, and then we will send out the appropriate notices for the public hearing to the affected and adjacent landowners and do the advertising.
Thank you, Hillary. I would open it up to council for any questions, discussion, or how you'd like to proceed. Go, John.
Thank you. I'd like to move that bylaw 25-010 be read a first time.
Thank you, John. John has moved the recommendation that bylaw 25-010 be read for a first time.
Just one
Go ahead,
question,
Morris.
Mr. Chairman, what size operation is it gonna be, acre-wise or whatever?
I do believe it was on the map that we had in the agenda package. Let me just scroll to that. The total area would be approximately 87.12 acres. That's for the cultivation, mostly for the cultivation, so outdoor cultivation of cannabis.
Any other questions? John has moved the recommendation, the bylaw 25-010 be read for a first time. Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? carried. Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you.
Move down F1.5 to our addition. Devin, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Council. I just wanted to provide an update on recent bridge file inspections that took place this year. Our bridge files are inspected every 57 months to ensure the bridge is in a suitable condition for the traveling public, and they look at several items on the bridge itself to determine a sufficiency rating. So those condition assessments did come back earlier this week. There is a bridge file located right here. This is 79595. You can see 8 Mile Lake right here in the city of Lethbridge to the bottom left. This bridge file did come back with a recommended weight restriction of 10 ton, and they recommended it does get replaced next year. So with that, we do have some signage ordered, and comms is ready to put this out to the public that it will be a 10 ton restriction. And as well, I do plan throughout this summer to do a design and tender for this project, add it into the 2026 budget, and immediately upon budget approval, have this replaced in January of 2026. Just the way that we package the budget luckily gives administration the ability to get on this a little bit sooner and get this bridge replaced as soon as possible. We are unfortunately too late to replace it now, as the irrigation season is starting up fairly shortly here, and this is crossing a canal. So for the duration of 2025, it will be restricted to 10 ton. But as I mentioned, I'm going to have this queued up and basically a contractor on board pending 2026 budget approval to have it replaced first thing in the new year. So I just wanted to give council an update on that in case you heard anything from the public or see anything posted on social media regarding that bridge file. I'll zoom in a little bit here. So I'm not sure if you can see where my cursor is. There is luckily only one residence along this 2 mile stretch of road immediately north of the canal right there. And it is along Range Road 21-1 just north of 10-0, right where my hand is.
Go ahead,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So is that canal, it could potentially be pipelined sometime, or is it too big?
I wouldn't say it's too big to be pipelined. As part of our ongoing coordination meetings we have with the irrigation districts, we do communicate what our capital projects are with each other, and this has not been identified to date, but it is something we will reach out and confirm if it is. However, just due to the restriction on the bridge, even if that canal is slated in 5 years' time, we should probably still replace it to allow traffic along that roadway to not be restricted.
Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you zoom back out? I just wanted to get an idea of where options are for people that may have to deal with a higher weight restriction,
So luckily there is a haul route directly to the west and the Broxburn Road directly to the east.
Okay, all right, so there's lots of options then. This
Yeah.
isn't a situation where we're really landlocking one individual?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, perfect, thank you.
Anything else, Devin?
That's it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just an update.
Yeah, okay.
Kevin, can you hear us?
Due to the restriction on the bridge.
Can you hear me?
If that canal is slated in.
There's a bit of a delay.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk one more time?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Kevin. Just get Candace's attention if you need anything. Why don't we move down then into administration? F2, we have 2 items. F2.1, the CPAA conference. It's right there.
I just wanted to confirm with council, if anybody else was planning or wanting to go to the CPAA. Currently, John, Morris, and Lauren are registered. We get 2 registrations with our sponsorship. I only had 3 hotel rooms booked, so if anybody else wants to go, I need to know today so they can get hotels.
Okay. Mark, you good? Okay. Okay, I think we're good then, Candace.
Thank you.
Okay, FCM.
Similar thing, I just want to confirm if we're not going to FCM this year.
I think so Cole and I spoke briefly yesterday about this. Obviously, it's at council's discretion. If there is the will of council to send someone, that would be at council's discretion. Having said that, just given where we are in the terms of an election and where RMA is with their conversations with FCM, just Cole touched base with Tasha yesterday, they are shifting gears on their federal advocacy just because of the election and what that looks like. Yeah, I guess I would just open it up for council's discussion and how you would like to proceed. John?
I personally don't see a lot of value in it at this point in time. I think that, given the environment in Ottawa right now in the current election, and we don't know which regime is going to be in after the end of the month, I don't see value.
Anyone else? Yeah, I think I would concur, John. So if that's all right, we'll leave that as is then. Okay, move down to correspondence. We have three pieces of correspondence today. Our first one, an invitation to the University Abundanza dinner. Did I say that right? Saturday, April 12th. So you have that invitation for you if you would like to attend. And then moving down, item 2 is the Old Man Watershed Council. We have a thank you. Thank you for your generous donation to the Old Man Watershed Council. Your support is deeply valued and appreciated as we work to improve the health and resilience of the watershed. So we made our annual membership donation there. And then our third piece of correspondence, there's a minister's letter from Minister McIver regarding the budget. And then attached to that as well is the education property tax fact sheet. So obviously the provincial government did choose to increase the requisition on the education property tax. And then also the third piece of correspondence attached to that is the comparison report. So in our case for Lethbridge County, overall the total education requisition change was an increase of 13%. So just for numbers, the 2024 total education requisition for Lethbridge County was $6,342,496. That goes up to $7,150,694 in 2025. So just some perspective there. I think we've all had discussions at different meetings and groups that we're a part of. It's obviously tough for municipalities when we make our budgets, and then after the fact, the province changes the requisition. It looks as though we're impacting our ratepayers, what really we're just doing the job of the province and collecting that. Applaud the province on going ahead and collecting that education. I do think that's something that we need in the province. However, it just is unfortunate that it comes on our tax bills. And I think we've talked at length about how we're going to try to do our best to tell that story when notices go out. Is there anything anyone would like to touch on that? Go ahead, Lauren.
Thanks, Mr. Sheriff. So just a quick question on that. Is it more based on assessment rather than population? Because when I look at Coaldale, which is very similar in population out of the county, they're paying less than we are. So is it a combination of things that makes our increase higher, or how does that work?
Haley?
I think I'll have to get back to you just on the details of how that is connected, but Yeah, so at this point, because it's on the property taxes, it would be an allocation based on assessment, but let me get some more information and we will come back with that.
Anything else on our correspondence for today? If not, we can move down. Item H, we have our county council and committee updates. To our attendance. Why don't we start in Division 1? Councillor Lauren Hickey. Lauren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on February the 4th, attended the Health Professional Recruitment and Retention Committee meeting in Picture Butte, and the FCSS Board on the 5th. 6th was County Council. The 8th was the Southern Alberta Chinese Association Year of the Snake. That was very interesting, quite entertaining, actually. 19th, Green Acres Finance Meeting, and the 26th was Green Acres Board Meeting.
Thank you, Lauren. Division 2 for myself, February 6th, council meeting. 7th, Mayors and Reeves. 8th, also attended the Southern Alberta Chinese Association Year of the Snake celebration. February 13th, we had a fire services review meeting internally here at the county. 17th, Coaldale District Candy Ride Association ribbon cutting. Mark and I attended that in Coaldale. 25th, emergency services meeting with the town of Coaldale. And on the 27th, I participated in a child care needs assessment, a virtual session. Was hosted by Deloitte on behalf of Jobs, Economy and Trade. They were trying to get a rural perspective on what childcare needs are in rural Alberta. There's people from all over the province on the call. It was a very diverse group of communities with very different needs around what they need for childcare, what they expect out of their childcare, what are some of the barriers to childcare. It was very clear that there is a real need for affordable childcare in the province, a very visible need for better rules around what that looks like, the provision of that service, and making sure that when children are in care, they're safe and well cared for. So an interesting conversation. I didn't have a whole bunch to add to the conversation, if I'm being honest. Just gave a few perspectives, but a lot of very vocal people on the call. Division 3, Councillor Mark Sayers. Mark?
Thank you, Campbell. On February 6th, the Lethbridge County Council meeting. The 7th, I did a phone interview, the FCSS interview. On the 13th, fire services review meeting. 17th, Tori had said, we attended the Coaldale Handicap bus ribbon cutting. It was a pancake breakfast and it was a family. It was a great event and a lot of people there. On the 24th, Kevin and I attended the Old Man Watershed Council workshop on behalf of the council. And on the 25th, we had an emergency services meeting with the town of Coaldale.
Thank you, Mark. Division 4, Deputy John Curtis. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On February 4th, I had a weekly meeting with the Community Futures Executive Director. February 6th, regular council meeting. And February 11th, Lethbridge Community Futures actually hosted South Region Managers and Chair meeting. And then on the 26th, monthly Community Futures Board meeting.
Thank you, John. Division 5, Councillor Kevin Slump. Kevin, can you hear us?
Yeah, can hear you. I can't go with my agenda though, so it's sitting here thinking, so I don't know my list, but I think everything was good.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin attended a council meeting on the 6th, Highway 3 twinning development, Old Man Watershed Council workshop, as Mark had noted, emergency service meeting with Town of Coaldale, and on the 27th, attended the Highway 3 twinning booth at Egg Expo. Division 6, Councillor Vanderveen, February 6th, the Lethbridge County Council meeting, and the 28th SEWA Board meeting. Division 7, Councillor Zeenstra. Morris.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The council meeting, but there's two of them, I guess I didn't put in for, but I went on the February 13th to the Chamber of Commerce meeting, and also at 1:30 I went to the CPA meeting.
Thank you, Morris. Move down, our second item under County Council and Committee Updates, Community Futures National Convention, Deputy Reeve Curvis. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just looking for permission to travel out of the province from the council. Community Futures National Convention is in St. John's, Newfoundland this year, and it's from May 4th to 6th. From a financial standpoint, Community Futures pays for the airfare and the hotels, so there really isn't any significant financial commitment from the county. So I'm just looking for permission. So I'd like to move that I have permission to attend that convention for Community Futures on May 4th to 6th of 2025.
Thank you, John. John has moved to grant travel to the Community Futures National Convention, May 4th to 6th. Is there any discussion? Call a question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Thank you, John. Item 3, our addition, link pathway update. Morris, do you have something?
Yeah, oh yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. They had a meeting yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock at the, just by the jail down there. But anyway, so far, I think the way things are going with the link pathway, the way they support this, donation end of it and everything else on that, it's going pretty good. As a matter of fact, there's one person who donated, he is unanimous. He donated the other couple weeks ago $200,000 to it, and that kind of stuff is going on. So it's great to see that someday completed, and they got to make that highway crossing that they're going to tunnel it, I guess. And I guess the highway department is very cooperative on that end of it too. And they're gonna get a humongous big culvert that's been abandoned in Fort McLeod for many, many years. It needs a real big culvert for people, you know, to either bicycle through that or walk through down there. And they, that was donated by transportation also. And it's going good.
Any questions for Morris? Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So are they planning on going under the road this year, or?
That is kind of up in the area, if that is going to happen or not. It is, it does need quite a bit of funding towards that. They're hoping for that, yes.
Anything else? Thank you, Morris. I think that covers off everything in the public portion of our meeting. Did I catch everything? Save for our public hearings. So why don't we take a recess, and we'll come back just before 10 o'clock, and we'll start our Thank you, everyone. Call the meeting back to order at 10 o'clock a.m. this morning. Thank you for joining us. We have 3 public hearings scheduled for today for Bylaw 25-003, 25-004, and 25-006. So with that, I would recess our public meeting and state that we are here today to hold the public hearing for Bylaw 25-003 to redesignate Plan 2410658, Block 5, Lot 1 in the Northeast 191023 West 4 from rural agriculture to direct control. Ask for a motion to open the public hearing. Go ahead, Mark.
Move to open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mark. Mark has moved to open the public hearing at 10:01 this morning for the public hearing for Bylaw 25-003. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Public hearing is being held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act as amended. The public hearing is being live streamed via the county's YouTube page. And with that, the public hearing for Bylaw 25-003 is now officially open. I'll now ask the Manager of Planning and Development to review the nature of the hearing and provide an overview of what is being proposed. Hillary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Council, and thank you to those in the gallery who came for this public hearing today. An application has been made to redesignate, as the Chair has spoken to, Plan 2410658, Block 5, Lot 1, within the Northeast 191023 West of the 4th, from the existing zoning of rural agriculture to a direct control zone. The applicant wishes to continue the operation of the existing event center known as the Countryside Barn on the property. The event barn is currently permitted as a home occupation. Home occupation permits are only valid in the county if the business is being run by those individuals that live on the property, and it is not transferable. Throughout the initial review process, it was determined that the future owners do not wish to reside on the property and run the event center as a standalone business. As such, the direct control district was deemed to be the most appropriate land use district for them to apply for. The direct control district ensures that the uses on the property are limited to what the property is being used for, unlike our conventional zones, which allow for a wider variety of proposed permitted and discretionary uses. The application has been circulated to all the county departments and external agencies for their review. No concerns from internal or external agencies were submitted regarding the proposed application. Lethbridge County Administration did review the proposed bylaw and has the following comments. The Lethbridge County Municipal Development Plan requires that lands be redesignated if the standards of the land use bylaw cannot be met. Within the Municipal Development Plan, the proposed use would be considered an isolated commercial industrial development and would apply the siting criteria as outlined in policy 10.21 of the Municipal Development Plan, which states the following: that the lands be located on fragmented or poor agricultural lands. An isolated commercial industrial development shall be adjacent to a road network that can accommodate the development's traffic volume, have access to utilities and services, be compatible with adjacent land uses or mitigate any negative impacts to those adjacent land uses, and address drainage and stormwater runoff. The lands for this particular rezoning are fragmented and have previously been subdivided and are not used for agricultural purposes. The proposed development is not directly adjacent to any provincial highway. It's about 1.5 kilometers from Highway 23, but it is relatively close to a main highway network. Regarding services, the development would have on-site septic, there is potable water on-site, and all the utilities are currently on the property. The property is large enough to manage stormwater and drainage without any additional infrastructure such as storm ponds or drainage swales. The use could have some off-site impacts to adjacent parcels, including noise and increased traffic. Those impacts can be addressed at the development permitting stage through conditions of the permit, as was done when they permitted the home occupation on the property. The proposed direct control, if approved, would intensify the use of the parcel as the current operation is limited to Monday through Saturday and this direct control zone wouldn't have necessarily those stipulations within it. The future landowner of the property would be required to obtain their development permits and safety codes permits as required under the direct control district. So if this was approved by county council, they would have to come back and obtain their appropriate development permits. The notice of the public hearing was advertised in the March 11th and 18th editions of the Sunny South News and on the county's website and social media accounts. The notice of the public hearing and application details were also sent to the affected landowners. After this report was written, I did get one written submission for concerns with regards to the proposed bylaw, which is included in your agenda package. Those concerns included, they state that it has not been a home occupation for several years and that the landowner should be fined for not having the appropriate permits in place or zoning in place. They had concerns with regards to noise from the music, yelling in the evenings and into the morning, limiting the noise level at certain times. The volume of traffic on the road from the day of and the next day after an event, the amount of dust created from the traffic volume, and then they're saying that the service provider has trucks going in and out of the property or back and forth from the property during an event. And they would like to see enforcement on the speed and the potential impaired driving resulting from events. I did receive another phone call from an individual who left a message, but unfortunately we weren't able to touch base to talk. That person is here today if they wish to speak to any concerns that they may have. Other than that, the recommendation at this time is to proceed with second reading of the bylaw at council's discretion. There is an opportunity, as always, with a direct control that if there are concerns that are relayed, that county council could either deny second reading of the bylaw or they could amend the direct control to address concerns as they see fit. A direct control zone is at the prerogative of county council to approve, and any conditions thereof would have to be adhered to, that may be added, would have to be adhered to by future landowners for a development permit application. With that, I will turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Hillary. This is council's opportunity to receive input from the public. Excuse me. Those making presentations are asked to state their name and review their points. We ask that you refrain from asking questions to council. The intention of the public hearing is not to debate or defend the contents of the bylaw or the position which individual councillors may have on the bylaw. Questions asked of a councillor by a presenter may be ruled out of order. Presentations to council will start with the applicant who has made the submission, followed by any other persons wishing to comment on the proposal. Please keep your comments to the point. After each speaker, members of council will be permitted to ask questions of the presenter to clarify any details. No debating or questions from the floor will be allowed. Each speaker will be allotted up to 5 minutes. Additional time may be granted at the discretion of council. With that, would the applicant care to speak?
Dear council members, thank you for the opportunity to address each of you in this rezoning application. In this application, the owners of Countryside Barn, Crystal and I, are seeking the rezoning of the venue from rural agriculture to direct control to better suit the county policies. I'd like to take this opportunity to share some history of the current operation. My wife and I brought this exquisite barn out of Chicago, with much care and dedication, reassembling it in its current location. Many considerations were taken in this endeavor, and always with a vision of prestige in the industry. Our entry into the market was turbulent, as COVID-19 shuttered operations to a bare minimum for the first 2 years. While this was very challenging to navigate, the slow entry gave opportunity to address challenges as they arose. While the pandemic challenges were ongoing, we also came to understand that complete management of the operation would overwhelm our capacity as me and my wife in fairly short order. Due to our desire to run a top-tier service to the industry, we sought out what we felt was the most eligible and professional management company to provide support. By the following year, LA Chefs was the exclusive caterer for our venue and did not disappoint in quality. The early startup had some complaints of operations, mostly related to noise, and we diligently sought out organizations that would comply with local ordinances. As any trial period, it took some time to weed out DJs that were too loud, photographers that took liberties into neighboring properties. While these may seem like minor infractions, we took each instance seriously and dealt appropriately to provide further infractions. Some current protocols include a separate sound contract with any DJ on site. In the contract, they will forego the damage deposit for infractions and strict restriction on any sound leaving the property. As operations improve, we continue to be proactive toward any unwanted experience of those that reside around our property or may in any way be impacted by our operations. Some examples of considerations that we have taken to work with our neighbors and be a good neighbor. We do not operate on Sundays, so in no way do we conflict with the neighboring church on their event day. We have implemented a strict sound policy that goes beyond what the county mandates effective 2024. We offer bus service to give clients the opportunity to be brought safely to a hotel until they are safe to operate a vehicle. Also, by offering the bus service, we limit vehicle traffic on local roads. Although highly profitable, we have refrained from offering campsites that would be a huge feature to our clients, but would stand to cause unnecessary conflict in the neighborhood and the inability to navigate sound and operations beyond our operating hours. We've also considered running it more like a community hall, where it would be wholly unsupervised, more like a ready-made hall or community center. But we feel that by offering a 5-star client experience, we can better navigate the complaints and be a better neighbor. There's some concerns have been brought forward, and I wish to address them on a direct notice, so that we can demonstrate how we're doing our best to be good. The concern of it not being a home occupation for several years, I believe that that was something that could have been previously brought to Lethbridge County, and the appropriate staff would have been able to explain how we were operating within our issued permits. Additionally, this application is to clear up such concerns. The noise from loud music and yelling into the evenings into the next morning. Valid concern. Addressed with our new sound policy that was instituted in the 2024 season. We have future plans for more foliage and structures to further isolate the property. The volume of traffic on the road into the next morning. Traffic is not a popular thing, but the alternative is worse. Traffic in the field. We encourage clients to use the north access, which is the shortest distance to a provincial highway, and all those impacted have dust control applied. The amount of dust created by the volume of traffic. Dust control provided by the property owners or county. The property already goes past its subsidized boundaries with dust control application. Also, the concern, and I would happily collaborate with them to talk to council about lobbying further dust control, as we're a legitimate business in the industry, and the last kilometer would be considered a haul route or a high traffic area. The service industry truck that goes by numerous times during an event. Also a traffic concern previously addressed, but with the addition that we don't complain when manure trucks are coming by or silage trucks through an event. It is very stressful for clients and staff, but we respectfully accept the lifestyle in the county that each business has some less than ideal impacts, but with cooperation and understanding, we can exist together. The concern of the speed on Road 23.5. I absolutely support enforcement. I've addressed it myself, and I've asked for enforcement on times when there was concerns. Potential impaired resulting from the events, I have that in our busing encouragement to navigate that, providing a bus service. So, thank you for your time and consideration. Do you have any questions for me?
Doesn't appear to.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would now open up the floor. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak to it.
Please.
Can I speak from here then, or?
Could you come up to the mic, sir? Just state your name and then the floor is yours.
My name's Brian Harbers. I'm representing the Monarch Reformed Church that's adjacent to the Countryside Barn property. We had a couple concerns. This development has been sort of a moving target. I think it's had permits issued or reissued several times. Our concern is the hours of operation. When the first permit was granted, it was shut down before midnight on Saturday night, any events. Then we saw it move to earlier into Sunday morning, I believe it was 1 o'clock when the shutdown time was. Now moving to direct control zoning, is this going to change anything on those permit numbers or times when it was allowed to operate? We haven't had a lot of issues with the event center. They've been good neighbors for the most part. We have had a couple times, we've had some patrons have wandered over with a beverage to sit on the steps of the church and have a drink on a warm Saturday night, but it hasn't been an issue at all, really. But our biggest concern is direct control. Is it going to give the operator the opportunity to do what they want on the Sunday day? Eric's been very good about, in the past, not having any events that really interfere with our church services. But we just want to make sure that, you know, that outlet is there for us, that we don't have to be worried about this direct control changing the hours of operation not for the betterment of our church services and whatnot. But other than that, the traffic is a bit of an issue at nights. I live to the south of the event center on a corner, and I can tell you that we get up pretty early in the morning. We have a dairy farm. There are lots of times on a Sunday morning, Saturday morning, at 3 in the morning, there is traffic coming yet from the event center, whether it's cleanup crew or whether it's patrons that are just leaving. I'm not sure, but there is traffic. But overall, our experience has been good with Countryside Barn. But like I say, we just want to make sure that we're covered on our church service on a Sunday, that we're not conflicting with an event that's been scheduled then for that. And other than that, that's my biggest concern. So thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
I would like to, if I could.
Yes.
Good morning, esteemed members of the County of Lethbridge Council. I'm Carrie Ann Warden, and I'm an event consultant with the Countryside Barn venue, as well as LA Chefs. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak today regarding the rezoning of the Countryside Barn. The Countryside Barn has played a vital role in creating jobs within Lethbridge and County. Each event we host brings employment opportunities to many people, from front of house staff to behind the scenes teams, contributing to the livelihood of residents. We recognize that with success comes responsibility. The owners of the Countryside Barn, Crystal and Eric, have made and will continue to make efforts to address concerns from neighbors. Eric touched on a lot of the things that he has done in the years, but we also employ security teams for all events, and we continue to strive to be mindful and respectful of the surrounding community. We are committed to maintaining positive relationships and fostering goodwill in the region. Beyond its economic impact, the Countryside Barn has been a strong supporter of nonprofit organizations, offering in-kind sponsorships that directly contribute to the success of numerous fundraising efforts. We are proud to have partnered with groups such as Halo Air Ambulance, the Therapeutic Riding Association, the Lions Club, and the annual Wing Fling, amongst others. These partnerships have allowed us to give back to the community in meaningful ways. In closing, the Countryside Barn is not only a significant economic driver, but also a valued community partner. We are deeply invested in the well-being of this region. We believe that through continued collaboration, open communication, and a commitment to being really good neighbors, we can ensure that the barn remains an asset to the county. Thank you for your consideration, and we look forward to working together to find solutions that benefit both the community as well as the future of the Countryside Barn. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Jerry Josie. I live straight north, the Pie Corner right north of it. We've been there for a year now. And the only thing that I have is, as long as it doesn't touch anything on Sundays, I think it's a very good event center. With the busing, like he said, with the busing, that does make a big difference. I'm there every day. The traffic is actually pretty, I would say, quite a bit less than just the main road traffic coming from the feedlots and the other places. So my part, I support it. I think it's a very good thing for the county. And yeah, as long as it doesn't really interfere with Sunday, I have nothing against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone, Councilman and County of Lethbridge. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be here. My name is Marie Milsom-Galliana. I am the director and partner with LA Chefs Catering and Sky and Table Group. I've been with the company for 18 plus years, and I have seen the rezoning and the impact that Norland has made in the county, as well as now with Countryside Barn in 2020. I also wear a lot of hats with different boards, tourism boards and chamber and whatnot. And I will say that I'm looking at it from a tourism point of view, that it has been very beneficial to the county. We get a lot of destination inquiries from outside of the region, and those that come here, they often stay, play, and the economic footprint goes beyond just this event center. We have seen people visiting Crystal Springs, a Little Gem, supporting those county local businesses, as well as staying in our hotels here in Lethbridge is a huge benefit. I will say that as part of my role, it is my role to ensure that my team adheres to the guidelines, and we are very strict about that. We have created that separate contract where the noise decibel contract, we really make sure we stick with that. We have, as Carrie mentioned, the security teams. We have the busing. So we are more than open to working with Eric and Crystal and doing what we can to ensure that we are respectful of the neighborhoods and the neighborhood. So I just wanted to reiterate that that is something that we do take very serious, and we will penalize people that don't adhere by those guidelines. But we are very lucky to have the opportunity to be out to this unique venue. Oftentimes when I'm in Calgary representing, talking about the area, they do not know it existed. They get excited, they come here, and they fall in love with that region. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? And for a final time, is there anyone wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? Seeing nothing further, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Morris? Morris moved to close the public hearing at 10:24 a.m. this morning. Is there any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Reconvene our public meeting at 10:24. I would throw back to you, Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have too much to add other than what I had provided in my agenda report. With consideration, County Council may consider what they heard today, and they could propose to amend the direct control if they wanted to specifically address some of the concerns on the operation of this particular business. The direct control does allow you that opportunity to be specific. It would be somewhat unusual to have days and hours in a direct control, but probably not offside because it is site-specific. So that's something that you can discuss amongst each other as to which direction you'd want to go with those particular concerns that you may have heard today. Another option would be is that if you wanted to, if you heard those concerns and you said you wanted to have more control over what that development permit looked like if it was issued, you could change the rezoning to have the event center itself as a discretionary use, where it would come back to county council, where you would help craft, with administration support, to craft those conditions that would occur for the development permit moving forward. So if you wanted some options with regards to handle some of the concerns, the ones that you heard today, those are a couple options that I have. Or you could just approve the bylaw as is drafted, and then administration would handle the development permitting aspect of it as we see fit. So that's kind of my last comments for you to consider for this application.
Thank you, Hillary. So just to clarify regarding a couple of the questions from the public hearing, as it is presented to us right now, there is nothing restricting operation as per days of the week or anything like that. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. I would open up to council for any questions you might have, Hillary, at this time. Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just could you maybe re-clarify, under direct control, you're not required to live on the property? Is that correct? Oh, did I understand it correct from you?
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. That's correct. So this would act more like a business. It's whereby it would run as a commercial property. It wouldn't run as a residential property, so it would be more like a business that you would see in one of our business parks. So it wouldn't have those same considerations as a home occupation.
Any other questions? Seeing none, how would you like to proceed? Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move second reading of bylaw 25-003.
Thank you, Lauren. Sorry. Lauren has moved the recommendation for second reading of bylaw 25-003. Is there any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that bylaw 25-003 be read a third time.
Thank you, John. John has moved that bylaw 25-003 be read for a third time. Is there any further discussion? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Council.
We move down on our agendas, our second public hearing for today for bylaw 25-004. We're here today for the public hearing for bylaw 25-004 to redesignate Plan 881143, Block 1, Lot 7 in the Southwest 310-23 West 4 from direct control, bylaw 17-003 to direct control. I would ask for a motion to open the public hearing for bylaw 25-004. John. John has moved to open the public hearing for bylaw 25-004. Is there any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. The public hearing. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act as amended. The public hearing is being live streamed via the county's YouTube page. The public hearing for bylaw 25-004 is now officially open. I will now ask the Manager of Planning and Development to review the nature of the hearing and provide an overview of what is being proposed. Hillary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this second public hearing for today is for bylaw 25-004. This is to essentially amend an existing direct control zone that we have in the county, located in the Southwest 310-23 West of the 4. With this property is directly to the east of the Calvin Christian School and is owned by the Calvin Christian School. The applicant wishes to amend the direct control to allow for a not-for-profit retail store on the lands, and in review of the direct control that was drafted back in 2017 to adjust some of the setbacks, and some additional amendments have been proposed just to update the language of the direct control to bring it up to date, as it is almost 8 years old now. So with regards to this particular application, it has been circulated to county departments, external agencies. There was no concerns or objections raised with regards to the proposed rezoning. The Planning and Development Department review of this application was completed, and I can provide the following comments. The applicant was required to submit the rezoning as per Section 4 of the Municipal Development Plan. In looking at this application, the option for rezoning was to amend the existing direct controls district, being Bylaw 17-003, as it most appropriately reflects the proposed use of the parcel. The county's municipal development plan does not specifically speak to institutional uses or public uses in the bylaw, so we kind of just work on at an ad hoc basis with regards to these types of applications. The additional use proposed by the applicant, being the retail store, has been in operating for some time on the property across the road at the Calvin Christian School site. And it's been there for about 20 years. To date, there have been no concerns expressed by adjacent landowners regarding this particular use. They did have under previous bylaws, we didn't have as many requirements with regards to when permits were required, and at that time, there was just a letter from the manager of planning and development stating that there was no concerns with the operation. The additional use to the parcel across the road, I'll bring up the map so you can kind of see the Calvin Christian School on the west side of the road, and their parcel that they own, that's zone direct control, is on the east. Where they want to move the proposed retail store appears to be, there wouldn't be any negative impacts to the adjacent landowners, as it would be pretty much running in the same type of operation as they currently have. I'll just point out that that little store is this building right here, where my cursor is, next to the school. When we were looking at this application, it was noted that there was a couple other amendments that were required, specifically that signage should be included as a discretionary use to allow for minor signage on the property for, say, like crossings or any store signage that they want to have. I have attached the draft of the direct control, which shows the additions which can be considered by County Council upon second reading of this bylaw. A notice of this bylaw was in the March 11th and 18th editions of the Sunny South News, and we also posted it on all our website and social media accounts. Notices were mailed out to the adjacent landowners. I received no comments, emails, or phone calls with regards to this particular rezoning application. I did receive from some letters of support for the operation from the Calvin Christian School Board and the current president of the Country Rose store, which is what the retail store is called to date. So with that, I have put forward a recommendation that bylaw 25-004 be read a second time as amended. And if you had questions on the changes that were made since first reading, we can go through that in more detail if you require. But that is everything for my report, Mr. Chairman. Back to you.
Thank you, Hillary. I'm going to apologize for the duplication, but I want to treat all three of the public hearings equally. So with that, this is council's opportunity to receive input from the public. Those making presentations are asked to state their name and review their points. We ask that you refrain from asking questions to council. The intention of the public hearing is not to debate or defend the contents of the bylaw or the position which individual councillors may have on the bylaw. Questions asked of a councillor by a presenter may be ruled out of order. Presentations to council will start with the applicant who has made a submission, followed by any other persons wishing to speak or wishing to comment on the proposal. Please keep your comments to the point. After each speaker, members of council will be permitted to ask questions of the presenter to clarify any details. No debating or questions from the floor will be allowed. Each speaker will be allotted up to 5 minutes. Additional time may be granted at the discretion of council. With that, I would ask if the applicant who has submitted the proposal requests to speak at this time.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm one of the directors. My name is Henry Bucker, one of the directors at the school. And I guess want to reiterate a little bit the importance of this little store, that it does bring in some profit for our school because we are not 100% fully funded. So we do appreciate that and need that. And yeah, for the rest, I think it's all pretty clearly laid out. So I could take some questions if you have, but we do appreciate your consideration to move this little store across the road there. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So,
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? Did you have something more? Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, what is the definition of your retail store? Like, what do you sell? Are you a grocery store or dry goods or?
you know, it's actually it sells books. There's some clothing. There's some Dutch imports. It's there's lots of Dutch membership, and some cheese. There's some food there. So it's a little bit of everything actually.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? For a third and final time, is there anyone else wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? If there's nothing further, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Mark? Mark has moved to close the public hearing at 10:36 this morning. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. We can reconvene our public meeting at 10:37 this morning. I would go back to you, Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did fail to mention one thing, which is not consequential, but just how this direct control bylaw has been drafted. Each one has its own nuances, as you're probably aware as council. You've seen a few of them cross your paths. This one has both permitted and discretionary uses noted in it. For the discretionary uses, those when applying for a development permit application, those discretionary uses would come back to County Council for your consideration. And the reason why there are discretionary ones in this particular district is under the original direct control that was approved in 2017, there were some concerns from adjacent landowners on kind of what was being proposed and how those would be addressed. And so at that time, it was determined that it would be wise to have County Council acting as the development authority for those discretionary uses. It would just come as a development permit at some point in time for your consideration, with administration obviously providing the support on what that would look like. So just to clarify that on this particular one for you. With that, I don't have any other comments with regards to this application.
Thank you, Hillary. I would open up to council for any questions and for your direction. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looks fairly straightforward, so I would thus like to move the bylaw 25-004 be read a second time as amended.
Thank you, John. John has moved that bylaw 25-004 be read for a second time as amended. Is there any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move the bylaw 25-004 be read a third time.
Thank you, Mark. Mark has moved that bylaw 25-004 be read for a third time. Is there any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We can move down to our third public hearing for today. This is for bylaw 25-006 to redesignate Plan 0210278, Block 1, Lot 1 in the Northwest 271120 west of the 4 from rural agriculture to rural general industrial. I would ask for a motion to open the public hearing. John has moved to open the public hearing at 10:39 a.m. this morning. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. The public hearing is being held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act as amended. The public hearing is being live streamed via the county's YouTube page. The public hearing for bylaw 25-006 is now officially open. I'll ask the Manager of Planning and Development to review the nature of the hearing and provide an overview of what is being proposed. Hillary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this particular application is a conventional rezoning from rural agriculture to rural general industrial, located on Plan 0210278, Block 1, Lot 1 in the Northwest 271120 west of the 4th. This particular parcel is located just to the the east of the hamlet of Iron Springs, just along Highway 25. A portion of this parcel, as you can see on the ortho map, is part of a sand extraction business operating there, and where they want to do the rezoning is on the Northwest 271120, right adjacent to the highway in an area that has not been extracted or will be extracted for the sand operation. With regards to this application, it was circulated to the county departments and external agencies for review and comment. The following, we did receive comments from a wide number of external agencies, none with concerns. They are included in your agenda package for you to review. The one that you may note, which would come up at the time of subdivision, would be Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors. They do not have any concerns, but there would be a provision for a service road at the time of subdivision if this rezoning was approved. Lethbridge County Administration has reviewed the proposed bylaw and can provide County Council with the following comments. The industrial commercial land use strategy and the municipal development plan provide direction and criteria for the approval of what we would consider this application being as an isolated commercial industrial use. Those considerations include that the proposal be on fragmented or poor agricultural land. An isolated industrial commercial development shall be adjacent to a road network that can accommodate the development's traffic volume, have access to utilities and services, be compatible with the adjacent land uses or mitigate any negative impacts to those adjacent landowners, and address drainage and stormwater runoff. These lands are somewhat fragmented by the irrigation canal, as you can see on the map on the screen, and the eastern part of the lands are actively being mined for sand and or gravel. The proposed development is adjacent to Highway 25 and would have excellent access to the highway network. Regarding the services, the development would have on-site septic, potable water would be hauled to the site. There is a truck fill station in the hamlet of Iron Springs. And all utilities are existing on the site. The use may have some off-site impacts to adjacent properties, which are predominantly farmyards and agricultural lands. The off-site impacts could be an increase in traffic, potential noise or dust related to the businesses that wish to locate onto the site. But given the location of the acreages and residences, these impacts should be minimal. The notice of the public hearing was advertised in the March 11th and 18th editions of the Sunny South News and on the county's website and social media accounts. And notices were also mailed out to the affected landowners. The county did not receive any comments with regards to our notice that was sent out with regards to this particular application. With regards to a recommendation from administration, it is recommended that Bylaw 25-006 be read a second time and be considered by County Council. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Hillary. This is Council's opportunity to receive input from the public. Those making presentations are asked to state their name and review their points. We ask you refrain from asking questions to Council. The intention of the public hearing is not to debate or defend the contents of the bylaw or the position which individual councillors may have on the bylaw. Questions asked of a councillor by a presenter may be ruled out of order. Presentations to Council will start with the applicant who has made a submission, followed by any other persons wishing to comment on the proposal. Please keep your comments to the point. After each speaker, members of Council will be permitted to ask questions of the presenter to clarify any details. No debating or questions from the floor will be allowed. Each speaker will be allotted up to 5 minutes. Additional time may be granted at the discretion of Council. With that, I would ask if the applicant chooses to speak at this time.
Good morning, Council. My name is Vaughn Penner, and I'm acting in the first part of my remarks as agent for Job Sand and Gravel. So Job Sand and Gravel is obviously the owner of the property, applying for the subdivision, the rezoning and then the subdivision of the property. The second part of my remarks, I'm acting as CEO of Independent Crop Inputs, so ICI. ICI is an ag retail business. Our intention as a company is to purchase the western 13 acres of this subdivision and to construct and build a new ag retail location in that spot. So what that means is the distribution of dry fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, chemical, agronomy services, seed, everything needed for crop inputs. So that's our intention. We have an existing location near Barnwell, Alberta, and then also one in Scandia, very close to Scandia. So that's our role in the ag sector is to support local farms through ag retail distribution. So I'm happy to take questions, but that I think summarizes it is, I hope it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you very much. Questions from council at this time? Thank you very much. I would ask if anyone else wishes to speak to the proposed bylaw at this time. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? And I'll ask for a third and final time. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? There's nothing further. I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Lauren? Lauren has moved to close the public hearing at 10:46 this morning. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. And we can resume our public meeting at 10:46. Hillary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have too many additional comments. I think the applicant and the report speak for themselves. But this is seen as, from the county's perspective, as an ideal location for an industrial type of use, given the proximity to the highway and obviously the users of that would need this kind of service. So it meets the terms of both our municipal development plan and our industrial commercial land use strategy as an isolated industrial area for your consideration. But that's the additional comments that I have.
Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you.
I would open up to council for any questions you might have. Doesn't matter who's first. Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the bylaw 25-006 be read a second time.
Thank you, Mark. Mark has moved that bylaw 25-006 be read for a second time. Is there any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. And third reading. Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move third reading of bylaw 25-006.
Thank you, Lauren. Lauren has moved that bylaw 25-006 be read for a third time. Is there any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, council. Thank you, everyone. I believe that concludes our public portion of our meeting today. We have two items for discussion in a closed session. Item J1, disposal of municipal lands, FOIP section 25, disclosure harmful to economic and other interests of the public body. And our second, the GFOA discussion. If there's nothing further, I would entertain a motion to enter a closed session. John. John has moved to enter a closed session at 10:40. Candace. All right, we have one motion coming out of our closed session regarding item J1, disposable of municipal lands. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move the county council approve the sale of municipal lands and allow county administration to negotiate the sales of lands within 15% of the asking price.
Thank you, John. Is there any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Is there anything further? If not, Morris?
Move so.
Morris moved to adjourn at 11:59 a.m. this morning. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed?